Welcome back to another segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. Today I'm continuing on with episodes from Season 1. Today I'll be talking about the star. When Grandpa and the rest of the family see a shooting star, and it means different things for different members of the family. If you are enjoying these, I'd appreciate if you hit like and subscribe to the channel. And be sure to share it with anyone that you think might enjoy. As the family enjoys dusk, twilight, the gloaming, whatever you like to call it. In this case, we're just running around playing tag. John Boy's up in his room writing, and Mama and Daddy, Grandma and Grandpa are just sitting on the porch. And then we all are recognizing the first stars to be appearing in the night sky. And there's one particularly bright one that a number of the family members make a wish on. And then this same star starts moving. I think most of us have probably seen shooting stars, but this one continues and continues and actually lands, crashes. And where does it crash? At the Baldwin's house. And not just at the Baldwin's house, but in the recipe room. And this is the beginning of a whole storyline about the star in the Baldwin's house. For Grandpa, he is feeling superstitious. He had a twinge in his chest right before the shooting star. And to him, he has heard that shooting star means death. So he thinks the combination of this chest pain and the shooting star means it's his time. And without any other symptoms, he decides that's it for him, and he stays in bed. No one can get him to get out of bed. And in a way, he's almost willing himself to die, which is quite alarming and upsetting, obviously, to the rest of the family. Everyone works to try and convince him that this is not the case. Once a star has landed in the Baldwin's recipe room, John and John Boy are just two of the members of the community who come by to see it. It's a rather unassuming rock with some smoke coming off of it when we first see it in the Baldwin's house. Well, very quickly their cousin Polonius descends upon them, having heard the news on the radio about this star and it landing at the Baldwins. So he comes to take charge of the star and manage the press and the viewings and charging for them and all sorts of things like that. And of course, the Baldwin sisters are so sweet and they never think ill of anyone, so they do not for a moment believe that Cousin Polonius would not have their best interests at heart. But Cousin Polonius does bring in a friend of his, and it is clear that these two are shysters and have plans not only for the star, but then when they taste the recipe, have plans to separate the recipe machine from the Baldwin sisters. And Polonius basically tries to convince them that this star, which they thought was a wonderful message from their papa and was a positive message, they try to convince them that no, it is a negative message, and that with it landing right there by the recipe, that it really means that he does not approve of what they are doing, and therefore they should cease making the recipe. They should dismantle the recipe machine, and he will be kind enough to take it off their hands so that they don't have to deal with it. Well, we know what that really means. He and his friend are planning to use this and sell this and make a fortune for themselves. John Boy, who's fixing the roof on the Baldwin's house from the meteor crashing through the roof, overhears talk of what the plan is for the recipe machine. In this scene, you see John Boy up on the ladder, and you see sort of the sky behind him. This was shot on the interior set at stage 26 where the Baldwin house was, and that would have been just a fake sky there. We are not outside. We are not actually shooting through a real roof to a real sky. In one of the scenes when John Boy is going to go up on the ladder to fix the roof, he starts up the ladder, and I believe it's Cousin Polonius exits the Walton house and almost knocks him off the ladder. Obviously, that had to be timed well so that the ladder wasn't actually knocked over as Richard got higher and he wasn't injured. Of course, he would have timed that. He wouldn't have gone higher than he was comfortable coming off of that. What would happen with these types of scenes when you had to make an entrance at a particular point and you couldn't see it? It was kind of like a blind entrance, or people were going to enter a scene and it needed to be on a particular line cue and you couldn't hear it. They would do one of a couple things. They would often rig a cue light. So it would be like a red light that would be rigged inside, and if you were waiting to make an entrance, you would wait and watch that light until it went on, and then you would make your entrance. So somebody would be manning that cue light switch, and at the correct time, either someone would cue it, whether it was the director or based on where the camera was at a particular point, or when an actor moved a certain way, or when a certain line was said, and that button would be pushed and the person would enter. Sometimes it wasn't timed quite right and they had to work that out to know exactly what the delay was on pushing the button, seeing the light, and making the entrance. When we dealt with cars, if a vehicle had to come into a scene and you were sometimes in a vehicle waiting to make an entrance, well, you couldn't see or hear what was going on. So in those cases, we would often have a walkie-talkie, and somebody would be far enough away from the sound person so that they wouldn't hear go, and you would have the walkie-talkie in the car, and when you heard go, you would make the entrance. John, in trying to find ways to get his father out of bed, he tries telling him he needs him in the mill, he needs help, and that doesn't work. Grandpa just says, well, get the boys to help. And John then goes to the Baldwins and basically asks if he can borrow the star, and they let him. He brings it home. He shows it to Grandpa and shows him that it's just a rock. Grandpa is still not ready to get out of bed, but then when he finds out that Cousin Polonius is there to talk the ladies out of their recipe machine, that prompts him to get out of bed, to go defend the Baldwin sisters, and knowing obviously about Cousin Polonius and not trusting him, Zeb feels that he needs to go and protect the Baldwin sisters from being taken advantage of. So that's what so it's the recipe that saves Grandpa, the recipe that prompts him to get out of bed. And of course, it all ends well, and they send Cousin Polonius and his shyster friend on their way, and they celebrate with what else but a taste of Papa's vintage recipe. The subplot involves Ben. He is participating in basically a spelling bee, a spell off at school for the 4th grade class, which I thought was interesting because by this point, Eric was 14. We were born in the same year. He's in October, I'm in January. So he would have been 14, and he's supposed to be in 4th grade. I thought, well, that's kind of interesting, but as we know, sometimes ages changed and who was older, him or Aaron. Anyway, it's all good. He got through it. So he participated in a spell off at school because he feels that all of the other Walton children have won awards or ribbons or things for different activities. And he feels like he is the only one who hasn't. So he really, really wants this. So when he sees the shooting star, he makes a wish. Well, we can guess what that wish was. And Elizabeth knows that he wants to win this. And so when she says, make a wish, and he says, don't tell, and she goes, I won't, but she knows what it is. And then later on, she says she didn't make a wish because she wanted Ben to have all the luck. Well, Ben proceeds to engage in this spelling bee, and it comes down to him and one other girl, Nancy. Now, you might recognize Nancy. This is actress Cindy Fisher. She was terrific. She did a lot of work, has done a lot of work over the years in different film and television, including the Blues Brothers movie and episodes of this, that, and the other thing. She is still married to actor Doug Davidson, who was on The Young and the Restless forever. So, little Hollywood relationship there. But Cindy also returned in season 3 in the episode The Lie. So if you think you saw her again, you are correct. At one point in the spelling bee, Ben has missed a word. We do not see what happens, but then Nancy is given a chance to successfully spell the word. And funny that the word was success. We find out after the scene that she also got it incorrect, which means that they will continue the next day to finish up. And Ben is astute enough to ask, do you think if you make a wish and it doesn't come true, it's your own fault? To which I believe he asks Mama, and she says, yeah, she recognizes how wise that is for him to recognize. So he decides that he just really needs to buckle down and study hard. And he does. And he is successful. And he wins the spelling bee and then has another ribbon to add to the collection of prizes for the Walton children. Little side tidbit here. As I've been recording this, my phone just rang. And it was Leslie Winston. And she's going to be joining, some of the Waltons are going to be doing a little thing for charity next week. So it was fun. So I interrupted the recording of this behind the scenes to chat with Leslie, who sends her best. Overall, another successful outcome for all the members of the Walton family and for the recipe. I hope you've enjoyed this segment of Behind the Scenes of the Waltons. I will be back with more behind the scenes and more Ask Judy. Thanks for watching.